much. Joining us now, senior editor and elections analyst with the Cook Political Report, David Wasserman. Good to have you. What do you think of Sherrod Brown's chances?
Katie, I think this is the purest toss-up on the Senate map. It's amazing. It's astounding that he's been able to continue to be in a dead heat even as the state has become more Republican. It's a testament to Moreno's poor follow-through. He hasn't put the money into the race, the personal funds that he said he would, but also Brown's ability to outrun the top of the ticket. And he has benefited from Kamala Harris re-energizing black voters in Ohio's central cities. That reduces the amount he needs to outperform the top of the ticket by to get to his win number.
There's some other Senate races that are surprisingly in play, or seem to at least maybe be in play. You have Elissa Slotkin, who's really competing with Mike Rogers for that open Senate seat in Michigan, the Democrat over the Republican. Bob Casey is obviously fighting off a challenge in Pennsylvania. Jon Tester fighting off a challenge in Montana. Ted Cruz and Colin Allred, we've been talking about that. Tammy Baldwin. But there's also Deb Fischer in Nebraska, who could be having to really fight off a challenge from Dan Osborne, who is running as an independent in Nebraska, but she's a Republican in that state. What do you think might happen in the state of Nebraska? Does Dan Osborne have a chance running as an independent, a pro-union guy in Nebraska?
Yeah, well, Katie, I feel like I've seen this movie before in a couple of past races where independents have challenged Republicans in Utah and Kansas. My gut feeling is that Republicans are going to end up winning this seat. Fisher's going to get reelected probably by high single digits, but only after Republicans have had to spend tens of millions of dollars bailing out. And that's money they wish they were spending in Michigan or Nevada, where it looks like Democrats might have slight advantages.
What about for Election Day, as you're looking to see which way things are swinging? Are there any particular counties, Dave, that you're going to be watching for that'll tell you whether Kamala Harris is going to win or Donald Trump?
Yeah, I'm going to be watching two counties closely in southeastern Pennsylvania. So Bucks County, it's no accident that Donald Trump picked McDonald's in Feasterville, Pennsylvania, in lower Bucks County to sling fries, because this is a place where Republicans recently took the voter registration advantage. It's a more blue-collar part of the Philly suburbs, and it's a place where Trump really feels like he can make ground relative to 2020. On the other hand, I'll also be watching Northampton County, which is just north of there. It's the swingier county of the Lehigh Valley counties, and this is where we could see it show up if there's a backlash to the Madison Square Garden rally. Keep in mind that Bethlehem, Pennsylvania is about 30% Hispanic. Next door, Allentown is a majority Hispanic, and a lot of that is Puerto Rican voters. So they could be really decisive. In Northampton County in particular, Bethlehem and Easton, it's predicted the winner of the state in every election since 1972.
Really interesting. What about Georgia? What about Arizona? Any counties in those places?
Yeah, in Georgia, we're looking at Baldwin County, which is Milledgeville, Georgia. And keep in mind that even as Democrats have gained ground in the Atlanta suburbs, we've seen the black share of the population decline in South and Middle Georgia. And that has made it harder for Democrats to kind of keep their margins at a place where Atlanta can overcome the rest of the state. Milledgeville is a college town. It's about 40% black, and it narrowly voted for Joe Biden 4 years ago. So if Trump does break through, that would be a sign that Harris isn't getting the support or turnout that she needs from African-American voters to win the state. And then in Arizona, Maricopa County makes up 60% of the state's vote, and it's going to take a long time to count ballots there. But there are a lot of micro electorates within Maricopa. You've got LDS voters in the East Valley who could support Trump at lower levels than other Republicans or previous Republicans atop the ticket. You've got a lot of independent retirees in the West Valley. And then, of course, you've got working class Latino voters in Phoenix. You've also got a number of McCain legacy Republicans in Scottsdale and North Phoenix who are turned off by Trump and Kari Lake. So it's a fascinating place that will decide that pivotal state.
Just yes or no on this. It's all I have time for. Is there a chance we could call the election on election night or in the early morning hours the next day?
I'm going to go out on a limb, Katie, and say that we will know the winner within the first 48 hours, maybe even the first 24 hours. That's my guess based on states counting their ballots faster than last time. But also, this could end up being a point or two race in either direction, different from the tie that we see in a lot of these state polls.
All right, Dave. It wasn't yes or no, but you still did it quickly. Thank you so much.